kamba nze n'abanyamasizi ndenda kubahisyaho okushasha kwaitu okuferwa emanzi yanyu, emanzi yaitu twena abachiga, emanzi y'abanya-Uganda, n'emanzi ey'abariragura abo munsi yona. Kanyeihamba asigire izina ndaza kubigambaho mu rujungu eritaryebwa abo kuba nko kumuhurire ebibenji bagambire Kanyeihamba ariho mbere ndagambira ngo izina rye riraza kuba nk'erya Ruyoka murijuka Ruyoka rwa maganya wankaye taryebwa akafuka kare konkahabwe bikorwa bye tutamwijuka nyabwe cyo Kanyeihamba aherezo murimo gwe itwe ecyasigara no kumusima ebyakozire kandi no kubikuratira. Many people have spoken before me today and the many days we've been talking about the late George Wilson Kanyeihamba. And many points, many important points, have already been made by previous speakers. Allow me, therefore, to offer some reflections with the nuance of someone who had the privilege of being a close colleague and friend. Obviously, I am, like all of you are, here with heavy hearts, but I believe with gratitude as well, very profound gratitude, to honor and lay to rest one of the finest sons of this land, Justice Professor George Wilson Kanyeihamba. For me, this is a deeply personal moment. George was not only a towering jurist and statesman, he was also my friend. He was my colleague and my fellow traveler in the long and difficult journey to build a just and democratic Uganda. I first knew of him by reputation, a brilliant academic, a passionate advocate for justice, and an uncompromising defender of human rights. When I entered law school at Makerere, he had already blazed a trail as a respected law lecturer. In time, I came to know him more closely, and we worked together in government and in the broader struggle for national renewal. Through exile and return, in times of dictatorship and of transition, George stood firm. He opposed the tyranny of Idi Amin. He resisted injustice in its many guises, and he gave full support to the cause that culminated in the liberation of Uganda in 1986. He was never afraid to speak, as you have heard everyone say. He was never afraid to speak truth to power. Because he believed that the law, to be worthy of the name, must be rooted in justice. And justice must be rooted in courage. In public service, George distinguished himself, of course, as we've heard many people say, as Attorney General, as a government minister, and later as a justice of the Supreme Court. His work on the bench was informed not just by legal precision, but by deep moral conviction. His judgments were clear, independent, and principled, even when they provoked controversy, even when they stood alone. He also served with distinction as a judge of the African Court on Human and People's Rights, extending his advocacy for justice and human dignity to the African continent. George, of course, as you heard everyone who spoke even today say, was a prolific writer, authoring many important books. He used well-constructed and lucid prose to articulate complex legal and constitutional concepts clearly, ensuring that his ideas could be understood by everyone. His contribution to Uganda's constitutional making were substantial. Although actively engaged throughout the entire process of constitutional promulgation, his enduring contributions were most clearly seen in his leadership as the chairman of the Legal and Drafting Committee of the Constituent Assembly. I happened to be the then chairman of the caucus of the movement in the Constituent Assembly. And all these things that we determined in the plenary session had to be cleared by the caucus, because we took positions in caucus meetings which we formally presented in the plenary session. And when it came to the chapters, especially that George had handled, I'm happy to inform you that we had least problem, we had least debate, because they were clear they had been done by expertise. So in the Constitutional Assembly, his intellectual rigor and clarity helped craft a constitution that still embodies our national aspirations. And in the few years he was in the judiciary, his judicial style reflected moral clarity and boldness, particularly in his defense of democratic principles and the rule of law. He rejected legal formalism when it conflicted with the Constitution of Uganda, or the spirit of our Constitution. He believed in using the law to promote justice rather than mere upholding technicalities. In fact, the provision in Article 126, Sub-Article 2, Paragraph F, which says that in adjudicating cases, the courts shall administer substantive justice without due regard to technicalities, was George Kanyeihamba's brainchild. He never tired of defending that Constitution and the values it enshrined: liberty, equality, and the rule of law. In many ways, that was his lifelong mission. George also had a rich personal side. He was frank, witty, and intellectually fearless. His humor was often sharp but never cruel. He challenged us all not to win arguments, but think harder, to act better, and to remain faithful to principle. To his wife, Sue, the children, Sarah, Joel, Ruth, and Betty, the grandchildren, Ruben Kunda and Nia Musime, siblings, and all his family, I extend my heartfelt condolences. You have lost a loving patriarch. Uganda has lost a patriot. The judiciary has lost a champion of its independence. And I have lost a dear friend. But though we grieve, let us also be thankful for a life so fully lived, for a legacy so deeply etched into our nation's legal and moral fabric. May we honor his memory, not only with words, but with deeds that uphold the values he cherished. Death can never take a good man away, for in the hearts of the people he inspired, the legacy remains and is continuous throughout generations. So, as I conclude, I hope you'll allow me, the timekeeper here, to lead you in the last stanza of a hymn that speaks powerfully to the comfort of our faith and the hope we hold even in grief. And the hymn says, "And Lord, haste the day when my faith shall be sight." Do you know it? Anyone who knows it, please join me. And Lord, haste the day when faith shall be beside. The clouds shall bear back as a scroll. The trump shall resound, and the Lord shall descend, even though nations fall. It is well, with my soul, with my soul. It is well, it is well. Fare thee well, my elder brother and friend. Rest in peace.